Welcome to the Biz Bash podcast, where we make biz strategy a piece of cake. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Cami, but you might know us better as Eliza Ann Calligraphy and Cami Monet. We want to help you, our fellow stationers, artists, and calligraphers, confidently build a profitable and personality-driven creative biz.
We're here to share our honest-to-goodness advice and actionable strategies for ambitious artists.
So put on your party hat, quit being a procrastinator gator, and let's get this party started. Oh, hey, y'all. Welcome to episode 9 of the Biz Bash podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the truth about hosting workshops. Oh, man. Workshops, you can't live with them. You can't live without them. Do we hate them? Do we love them? We don't know. So we're going to be chatting about all of our different workshop experiences, some of the mistakes we've made, some of the things that we've done right, how much we charge, materials, what's the hardest part about hosting a workshop, so many things. I mean, I think no one really knows the truth about workshops, but we are exposing that today. But first,
yeah, it's time to blow that crap out of the water right now.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it is getting really real up in here today. But first, before we get all ranty, Elizabeth, why don't you read us some lovely words from one of our listeners?
I'll go ahead and do that. I would love to. We have been so thrilled reading your guys' reviews. So this week we're featuring one from Colleen. Her username on Instagram is Torch and Canvas. And she says, listen to this podcast launch and absolutely love it. Full of great advice and clear friendship with the intent of helping aspiring artists and entrepreneurs. Easy to listen to with laid-back conversation and intriguing topics. Thank you for the inspiration, and I can't wait to keep tuning in.
Oh, that was so sweet. Intriguing topics. We sound so cool.
I actually just had a friend who DM'd me who said she got up this morning and she's not a creativepreneur, not a calligrapher, and she was like, I listened to your podcast and I still found it really interesting. And that is the best compliment.
Oh, wow. That's a gold standard compliment right there. So yeah. Hopefully that brings in some more listeners who aren't just entrepreneurs. Maybe they'll want to become entrepreneurs after listening to us. Probably not, though. They're going to be like, no way. Those girls are nuts. I am not doing that.
I think we're honest enough that we might scare some people a little bit.
True. Yeah, this is going to be one of those honest episodes for sure. It's going to be not going to be fluffy. I feel like I always see blog posts when they're like how to host a workshop, and they're all like they're all so happy, and it's like get some beautiful flowers that will just make your workshop so happy and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, actually, it's so scary. And there's a lot more than just that, like the cutesy stuff.
I'm going to go ahead and preface this by saying I'm currently in 2019 taking a workshop hiatus until at least June because I need to refigure out how workshops fit back into my business because I went all out in 2018 and it didn't necessarily go as planned. Definitely not a failure. That's why I wasn't on the failure episode of the podcast. But it was just not how I planned.
Okay. Well, I don't have any workshops on the books for this year yet, but I'm definitely planning on hosting some. I think now my process is a lot more streamlined. So I kind of have my floral workshop like ready to go. It's like streamlined at this point, but I want to start introducing some other types of workshops like brush calligraphy. But I obviously need to put together all my materials for that, whatnot. And I want to start hosting them here at my house because I have this huge studio that that one of the reasons we bought the house is so I could host workshops here. So definitely want to start doing that. But right now I have a leak in my roof, so it doesn't look cute. I mean, it's fixed, but I don't want to have people over with a hole. So they're going to be like, wow, this girl lives in a janky house. Anyway, so one of the things about planning a workshop is finding a place to host. So like I said, I want to start hosting them here because that would cut down so much stress for me because finding the place to host and getting all your stuff there is a massive headache. I mean, so you rent places when you do workshops, right?
Yes. So every single time I've done a workshop, I have paid for the space. I've never found a space or done it in my own apartment to be able to negate that expense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the workshop, I mean, I did it at my family's farm and that was free. I've done a couple of other ones that were like private workshops that were free at the space and it was like an event venue. And then the ones that a couple others I pay per person, like $15 per person. So it kind of varies each time. So I haven't had like huge overhead expenses with my location. I think for me, it was just more getting to the location in terms of setup, bringing all your crap, which is very annoying for me, and very stressful. So yeah, but if you are paying for a venue, that is definitely a huge cost. If you're paying for like a wedding venue or something along those lines, that you definitely have to factor into your pricing because it's going to be a huge expense. And you need to make sure that you're booking enough workshop attendees to even cover the expense of picking a venue. So
Yes, absolutely. I basically, as a rule of thumb anymore, I have a pretty good measure on kind of income versus expense for my workshops. And the bottom line is if I open a workshop for 12 students, I need to fill it halfway to break even. So
oh
I need
wow,
six
yeah.
people to break it even. What is the most you've ever paid for a space, Cami? Do you know?
I guess, well, let me do some math really quick and I'll be able to tell you 270 is the
Okay.
most I've ever paid, which is not bad at all.
I've always paid more than that.
Yeah, I think your places that you've done have always definitely been more than that. So,
Yeah, they've always been in the $300 to $600 range. Granted, the $600 one was a little different. That was the wood science workshop that I tried to do in December that we've talked about before. Didn't really pan out at all. I don't think I made money from that. But yeah, that's a wedding venue here on Marietta Square that I paid. And I had it for 3 hours and I paid $600. So
yeah.
yeah, oops.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is expensive. But yeah, you also have to factor in the time. Like you're not necessarily going to be there just for the time of the workshop. You got to be there to set up and break down. So if you're renting a space, you got to consider that too. But yeah, that's going to vary for everyone. But if you can figure out a deal with like a local stationery shop or somewhere cheaper, I mean, I would definitely recommend that for the first workshop you host, and don't go all out and spend $600 like Elizabeth did. Just kidding. That wasn't her
Well, I'm
first one.
actually that wasn't my first one. I opened that workshop for a lot of people and didn't
Right.
have as many and it was just a whole thing. But part of what I'm thinking about for, I'm taking my hiatus now till June or whatever, but thinking for later in this year is offering more private workshop parties. So if
Mhm.
someone wants to do something for a bachelorette or baby shower or something within their own home, because
Right.
then that space is automatically free and those people have brought me in with their group already put together and their spots already paid for. So changing my perspective on workshops a little bit to make it maybe more of like a service where I go to people. That's something I've brainstormed before to try to avoid the whole finding a space because there's so much stress that has come with that. But by far the best experience I've ever had was actually this little coffee house in Roswell, Georgia called Crazy Love Coffee.
Mhm.
And that was the best because they had this whole private downstairs area. It was so stinking cute. They also provided food, so I didn't have to source it
Oh, that is
myself.
so nice.
Still expensive.
Yeah.
But everyone loved it. So that was the best experience for me. Local, really cute, small, intimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
with your workshops, have you seen a trend in what days and times have worked best for you, or are you just kind of doing them randomly and they're all different, so
Quite a few of mine have been different dates and times. I have had 0 success with Friday nights. I think there's even one that I canceled for a Friday night. I had no signups. That was the beginning of 2018. I've done 2 on Thursday nights now. For some reason, those have worked well.
Mhm.
They haven't been complete sellouts, but I think I've gotten to like 9 or 10 students. But the best one I did was actually at Crazy Love Coffee House, and it was a Saturday, and it was a doubleheader workshop. So I had a beginner's class in the morning and an intermediate class in the afternoon. Different students for each class, but that was the closest I've ever come to selling out workshops because I sold out the beginners one, and I think the intermediate one I got up to 9 students in that one. So
Oh, wow. For me, that's awesome. Saturdays, I've only done workshops on Saturdays, so that's always worked well for me. Except for the one I did in a May, I think it was May. I only had 9 students, which I typically have like 16 or 18, and that one was kind of a flop. But I think it was just kind of the time of the year with May, a Saturday in May when there was like weddings going on and graduations and whatnot. So definitely want to consider those kinds of things when you're planning the date and time of your workshop. And putting on an Instagram poll or asking your audience what times work best for them is a great way to kind of gauge the time that you should choose. So
Yes.
okay.
And if you have anybody that has emailed you in the past asking when you're going to have a workshop, make sure to put their name on a separate list so that when you do plan one, you can reach out directly back to them.
Oh, that's so smart.
Because I have people reach out all the time, like, when's your next workshop? When's your next workshop? And I'm like, I'm currently not doing anymore.
Yeah. That's so smart though, creating a separate list just for inquiries about workshops. Genius idea. So okay, so let's talk about one of the other truths about workshops with how much all the materials actually cost and what you should be using for your materials, and how are you going to get them to take everything home in? I mean, okay, so my materials, I'm just going to throw it out there. I think they cost like $50 for each person for everything. So that includes my watercolor floral workbook thing. What else do I have? Okay, so all the paints, the paint brushes, the tote bag, I do an art print in there. I include the snacks and stuff into that cost as well. So $50 to $55 per person is how much it literally costs me to even get the supplies ready to go. And watercolor paper is very expensive, and I used to just do like individual sheets, but now I'm buying a whole block for people to take home. So because it just looks so much nicer than the plain old sheets.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
I know, and I'm all about, like, creating this high-end experience, so hopefully they still use the nice paper, but I always start off with some crappy paper too, but then also give them the fancy paper to take home. So, yeah, it ends up being about $55 a person. How much, well, it's calligraphy supplies would probably be a little less than watercolor supplies, I would imagine.
Well, it kind of balances out depending on what you decide to include. Because for the calligraphy, like, you have to provide a certain ink. You can't just use a cup with water, but then you're paying for paints. So it's all this kind of like mine are probably a little bit less, but I give them a pencil, a brush pen because we practice with pressure, the calligraphy pen holder, 2 nibs that they get to take home. So I have to like prep all of those beforehand. And then, yeah, I normally put like a little print, or I have notepads I generally put in my kits. They get a full pad of calligraphy paper, but also some blank practice sheets as well. Yeah, so there is definitely a lot that goes into it, but I know that you and I have different approaches to getting materials, Cami, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you kind of do yours on a workshop basis, right?
Right. I order mine like as I get the person. Like or like I know I'm going to typically have about 10 students, so I'll probably order supplies for about 10 to 12 students. And then as it fills up, because I don't want to over order and then be stuck with these supplies. But I guess I'm going to do another workshop. But before I wasn't even sure if I was going to do more, so I didn't want to be stuck with supplies. So then I'd be like last minute ordering, trying to fit others in. But now I know I would definitely just go ahead and order like 18, the amount for 18 people right off the bat, and just keep them, that's what you do, right? You just order all the supplies all at once.
Yeah, it's been a double-edged sword in some ways because part of that is you have to find the storage, obviously, to keep all
Yes.
of those things. And my workshops throughout 2018 just turned out different than I expected. But for the most part, so in January of 2018, I was like, okay, I'm going to host 5 workshops this year, 5 calligraphy workshops. That was my goal and what I had in mind.
Mhm.
And I bought almost all the materials I needed for those workshops at the beginning of the year, acting as if those classes would sell out. I not sure. I know that wasn't probably the smartest approach. Like, maybe getting them for the first couple of workshops would have worked out. And
Yeah.
granted, it does carry over. Like, if you don't sell out one workshop, you can use them for the next workshop. And I've done like little one-on-one private things at Starbucks before. So that's nice. I have all the materials here and I can just use them. But like I have a really big box in my storage closet of the Strathmore calligraphy paper because there were 2 calligraphy workshops I didn't end up doing at all. I canceled my March 2018 one. I didn't have any signups for it. And then I canceled the December 2018 one and substituted it with the wood signs workshop. And we all know how that went. So yeah, Cami, I think I like your idea a little better, at least in that experimentation time of workshops, buying them on a workshop basis, even a student basis if that's the way you need to do it. But sometimes you can get things cheaper if you buy in bulk. That's another big thing.
And if you're doing it on a student basis, then you're paying for shipping for every time. So, I mean, depending on where you're ordering from, I don't know, it depends on where you're ordering from, obviously, but like, yeah, ordering it like 16 to 18 at a time and then you have extras. I felt like I always had one extra person sign up who I just couldn't say no to. So it was like my workshop would be filled up at 16 or something. Then they'd be like, oh, but my mom really wants to come and this is our only time for our girls' date. And I'd be like, okay, well, then I'll just add on 2 more people. That's fine. And then I'd be like panicking trying to get this pull together the supplies for 2 more people and getting it shipped in time and paying extra for shipping. So it's because I couldn't say no.
That's where you and I are different too, because I'm too much of a meanie.
I know.
I'd be like, yeah, no, good try, but you could come next time.
I know, seriously. This was, I think, of my first 2 workshops. There were like people like knocking down the door trying to get in. Like it was crazy. And then the third one I did, which I only had 9 signups, which I normally have like 18. So I was like, oh, and like 3 of them were my family. So really only 6 signups for that one. I'm like, what?
But that was the one out at the farm, right?
No. This was the other one at another one at Paper Goat Post.
Okay.
Alex's mom and my. The one at the farm, I limited it to 10. How many did I do? I had 14, I think, at the farm.
Oh, okay.
But yeah.
What month of the year was the one that you didn't sell out?
It was May.
Oh, okay. Because of you were saying like graduations and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think that just had a factor with it. And I got a lot of messages from people saying like, oh, I really wanted to come, but there's a wedding or blah, blah, blah. So it's not like the demand was there, but they weren't able to make it. So yeah, I think it was just a matter of horrible timing on that one. And then the farm one, I think I did 14 people. A lot of my family was there, but yeah, I just kind of cut that one off. Like that one sold out the easiest out of all of them, to be honest. So, but I mean, it had a lot of.
That's so cool, and that's the one I got to go to. Yes, so great.
Elizabeth got to come to one of my workshops, so she got a firsthand look at everything, which is awesome.
I paid for my spot.
And she paid for her spot. She wouldn't let me give it to her for free. So
Tammy is way too nice and tries to spoil me all the time, and I'm like, no, I'm going to pay for your expertise.
Bought the first ticket, actually. Like as soon as I announced it,
I freaked out. I was so excited.
Oh man, that one was so much fun. That was my favorite one, obviously. I mean, it was just cool to have Pop there teaching with me, and the farm's just awesome. So that was a good workshop. Best one for sure.
Let's talk about in terms of providing something for them to take everything home in. So you said you provide a tote for everybody. Has that worked pretty well?
Yes, everyone loves the tote, and it's so cute because I put the print in the tote so they don't even see it till the end, and then everyone's like, oh my gosh, a free print, and it's so nice. So I give them a little tote to take home everything and a little plastic baggie for their paint palette so they can take it home without spilling it everywhere. But I love your idea of what you do, so go ahead and tell them what you do for yours.
Well, I can't fully take credit for it. So I'll give credit to Ashley Craft of Letter and Knot Co. That's what she is right now. She's going through a rebrand, so it'll change. But her name will always be Ashley Craft. And I saw her putting her stuff in boxes. I just searched like the white fold boxes online and found a site that sells them. And I told her, I actually messaged her and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know, like, your box idea for workshops is genius. And if you don't mind, like, I'm going to be using the same idea just because I just wanted to like let her know up front, like, I'm being honest. I saw it from you first. I had never had anything to hold mine, and it was always a problem for my students because they couldn't figure out where to like put the ink and all the extra things that they had.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting those boxes was the best thing ever. And they're white, so they're super cute. I wrap them up with this tulle ribbon that matches my brand colors, and I write their name on the outside of the box. And then when students open it at the beginning of the workshop, they like freak out because it's like opening a present.
That is so
And I put
cute.
tissue paper in there, and yeah, so that's by far been the best and most cost-effective way because I know those are definitely less than what you're paying for a tote,
Oh,
but the
yeah,
totes are
no.
so cute.
Totally. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, man.
You had that one waiting.
I've been sitting here this whole time just waiting for you to shut your mouth so I could say my point. I'm just kidding. Oh man, but yeah, the totes. But I love those because they still carry them around afterwards. I get tagged in all these posts with the totes, and yeah, those things are so freaking cute.
And it has your brand name on it, which is super smart. I mean, I put a sticker on the box with my brand name on it with Elysian calligraphy on it, but it's not really the same.
Yeah, those totes, I love them. But I love the boxes too because especially with calligraphy ink, you don't really want to put that in a tote. Like it's just not a good idea.
Yes, thank you for saying that. I know. I'm pretty sure somebody like had their ink spill in their car on their way home once or something. I felt so bad. I was like, I know it's not my fault, but I also feel bad.
Yeah. Oh, that
was before I did the boxes.
Okay.
So, and then setup was so easy because I just put down a box per place. Like I wasn't organizing all the materials for the students.
Oh, yeah. Setup is a beast. I don't think anyone realizes how hard setup is. I mean, it's not like it's hard. It just takes up a lot of time to make sure you have everything and put it all out. Like it took the first time I ever did a workshop, I did not leave enough time for setup. Like I did not realize how long it would take. And also I I fill the paint palettes with paint myself. So like individually I have to put like 10 different colors in a paint palette, like squeezing it out of a tube. So I did that. Now I do it the night before and let it dry so it's not all like mushed together. But before I did it like the morning of, and then I was like trying to transfer paint in paint palettes, and I had paint all over the bottom of all of them. So every time I set one out, I had paint everywhere, like all over the workbooks. Everyone's paint was like messed up because it was all like stuck on the bottom of each one because I stacked them like an idiot. I mean, like a little stack of clouds.
What were you doing? That's so funny.
I don't know. But literally paint everywhere. I was like sweating. I was like wiping it all over my clothes because I was like, oh my gosh, you're going to get here. Everyone's going to have paint on something. I hope no one wears white. Like,
oh my gosh, workshops make me so sweaty.
Oh, yes.
I'm glad you said that because I get the same way. I just get like nervous and I hope I say all the right things and I hope they like it.
Gosh darn. So I'm like running around trying to set up everything. You're all sweaty. Yeah, you get all sweaty and nervous. People show up early and you're still setting up and then you're like, oh my Lanta.
That's the part because then you're like trying to make conversation while you're still setting up. And for mine, I always, everywhere I've gone, I put craft paper down over the tables because you can never guarantee what the tables at a venue are going to look like and what kind of shape they're going to be in.
Oh, that's
so
true.
I always put craft paper down. So I always have to do that step. My husband likes to joke that I like force him to be my like workshop assistant because, you know, I make him come with me to set things up and come and pick me up and stuff. And it's a lot. Like, guys, we're halfway through the list we have right now of things about workshops. Like, so much goes into these.
Oh
it's
my gosh.
ridiculous.
Yeah. And then getting all the supplies there. I always have flowers, you know, and I have to transport them with like in the vase with the water in my car. And then the food, oh my Lord, even just the transfer and setup of everything takes so much time. It's ridiculous. See, that's why
I'm literally sweating, like thinking about it.
I'm pulling up my sleeves right now, just like, oh God. Woo, it's gonna be a doozy.
I've gotta fan my face now.
I know. Man. And I feel like there's always something I forget like 3 minutes before, like the last one, or not the last one, the one before the last one, I forgot to put water in their water glasses, which is obviously crucial for painting with watercolor. So then I'm like running around trying to fill it up with from a pitcher. Oh my gosh. Did I ever tell you about the time I spilled water all over myself in the middle of a workshop?
No.
Yes. I was helping this girl and I was like painting on her paper. Sometimes I accidentally dip my brush into their champagne too. I do that all the time. I'm like, oh, sorry. But I leaned over her and knocked over a full glass of paint water all down the front of my dress. And it was like in the middle of the workshop. So then I had to keep teaching with a wet dress and I looked like an idiot. But
Tammy.
I know, it was amazing. Oh, man, so good. But
Okay. So something we forgot to talk about with materials. You breezed over this like it was
oh,
nothing, which
sorry.
really makes me laugh. No, 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 no. You threw it out there. You're like, oh, in my like watercolor floral workbook. And I wanted to be like, hold on, sister. Let's
Oh,
talk about the amount of time that goes into creating curriculum and creating a workbook,
holy
because
crap.
that's no joke.
Yes, this is no joke. Like, I think people think, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a workshop," and you just put it all together in 1 week, and you're just ready to go teach. But you literally have to have your, stuff ready to go and in an easy, digestible format for your students. Like, you can't just show up randomly and have no idea what you're gonna say. Like, you have to have, especially with watercolor, like, some kind of format broken down. So this booklet I wrote is like 30 pages long, I think. And this was honestly one of the things that held me back from creating a workshop because I wanted it to be something very tangible, very easy to learn, and not just me talking for an hour. So this is like a take home booklet. It took me so long to figure out how to break down my process for painting into steps for people.
Yeah.
But honestly, once I created this, that's why now I feel better about moving forward with this floral workshop because I feel like I've already packaged up the floral workshop. I know exactly how it runs. And so now it's time to like build another one. You know what I mean? But I'm not ready to have that yet until I have that booklet, my curriculum in place, essentially. So yeah, if you're planning on hosting any workshop, you need to get that curriculum figured out ASAP, like before you do anything, because it's going to dictate the type of supplies you're buying. It's going to dictate where you even go with your workshop, the direction you take, how long it takes, how many people you can accommodate. Because if you're doing something super complicated, you probably want less people, so you can give them individual focusing. So yeah, you have a workbook too, right?
Yes, I have different workbooks for beginner and intermediate, obviously, because they're very different to teach. I would actually love to do another intermediate one. I really, really enjoyed that workshop.
Mhm.
But the beginner's workshop, I spent a solid amount of time working on that. Because you have to like scan in each and every
Every
individual
step.
letter.
Yes.
Yeah, every single step, and then you're duplicating it, and you have to create the lines that the letters are going to be on for a calligraphy workbook. It's very meticulous. And at that point, I wasn't the best in Illustrator yet. That's what I used to build out that whole workbook.
Mhm.
So it was time consuming, and finishing it felt great. I think there's still like a couple mistakes in it throughout that I just kind of anymore I'm like I just can't. I just
I know. I
like
think there's a couple
gotta leave
of
it.
misspelled words in mine. I'm just like, I don't even care at this point. Just spent so much time.
Yeah, that's a huge roadblock. I mean, that's kind of like stepping stone number 1. If you're gonna be teaching anything, gotta figure out what you're gonna teach and what format it's gonna be in, because you're right, you can't just show up with the papers and the brushes and be like, "Okay, here we go, and here's the steps." You wanna provide something that they can work out of, and for calligraphy, you have to provide something they can work out of,
Yeah.
for beginning.
You could show up and just do that, but I don't think your workshop would be a good experience. Like, I was so worried about, are they gonna have something tangible they can take home from this? Will they have a good time? Is this something I can really teach someone? And just answering those questions and making sure, like, I just wanted it to be very easy to understand. And I always say in my workshops, like, I can turn you into an artist in 2 hours. Like, I figured out like a little formula on how I can literally turn you into an artist in 2 hours. And I think it works every time. I mean, you were there, you saw.
Yeah,
So
I loved it.
breaking
I
it down
loved that
into
workshop.
steps. But yeah, that's been a roadblock for me coming up with other workshops. I'm like, how am I going to break this down where it's easy to understand and I can put it together quickly? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not even a stepping stone. It's like a boulder that you've got to figure out. So,
I know. It's intense. Man, this whole just like talking about this, like my heart's just beating faster. Guys, we're not trying to like scare the crap out of you, but we're also trying to scare you a little bit at the same time, because I think there's an attitude among a lot of people that are like, "Oh, the next step of success is to like throw a workshop." And sometimes I wish I had spent my time working a little harder on other things,
yeah.
in my business.
Yeah, workshops, I always think, I'm like, this is going to be a great moneymaker. I'll do one workshop a month. that'll be a profit of $1,500 or whatever each month. And then I was like, I cannot do a workshop once a month because they are so much time besides just the day of. Like, it really is. It's so weird. Like, I never even had a clue on how much time they take beforehand until I actually did one. So just a little FYI there. They take a lot more time on the back end than you realize. So
Yeah. I've kind of been mentally telling myself now, like, okay, if I continue to do workshops later this year, I'm probably going to be hiring someone to come into the studio and package it all up for me
mhm.
and order the materials for me. And like, these are the things that I shouldn't be doing in my business that I could pass on the torch to somebody else.
Yeah.
Because yeah, it's a big commitment, like way bigger than people realize. And there's that pressure of, delivering good results.
Right. And the other thing is you have to market the heck out of it. It's not like you just have a workshop and everyone shows up and it's magic. Like I think that is a really hard part too, is marketing it because it is like an experience that you're trying to sell and it's typically higher priced. So sometimes it can be harder to make that sell. So yeah, I mean, marketing, I think I talked Instagram, obviously. I make a Facebook event page to promote it. Um, let's see. I really want to start doing printed stuff, which I did printed stuff for my workshop at the farm, which that we set up at my dad's art gallery. So he passed those out there. But just thinking about like local places around town. Next time I do a workshop locally, I'm going to start printing out flyers and putting them at the local Starbucks, just like places that have those community bulletin boards. Because getting the word out is super hard when you're trying to reach just a purely local audience,
Yes, it's so hard. I do printed flyers. I do like little 5x7 note cards. And Marietta Square is just so cute. There's a ton of like little boutiques that really fit the perfect demographic of person who would probably love to come to a calligraphy workshop for fun. And so I always go hand out some there. The bummer is I don't think I've ever had a person tell me that they heard about a workshop that way.
Yeah, that is interesting. So maybe they don't work.
I don't know. Yeah, but it makes me feel good when I do it.
That's
Because
all
I'm
that
like, I'm
matters.
trying the good old-fashioned old school way.
I know.
Whenever I email about workshops, those are always my emails with the highest unsubscribe rate. So I'm like, oh my gosh, do I even like bother?
Is it really? That is so funny. You know what? The emails that I get the highest unsubscribes from is when I send out something about free shipping. I always get like a million unsubscribes.
Really?
I'm like, I'm giving you free shipping. What more do you want? Oh, but that's a little sad tangent. It makes me so mad.
The marketing that is probably the hardest for me because so you talked about in the failure episode a little bit that when you did your pet portrait workshop, which did not work out.
I didn't do the pet portrait workshop.
Yeah, when you attempted a pet portrait workshop, you had it scheduled and all that stuff.
Right.
That no one was signing up, which was really discouraging, which meant you didn't want to promote it at all.
Exactly.
So it was kind of this like nasty catch-22.
Yeah.
The same thing has happened to me before, which is why in March 2018, I canceled the one that I was going to do. But yeah, you have to say something like 7 times for it to stick, and probably more than that for someone to engage and actually buy a workshop, unless they've been going out of their way previously to try to find you or try to sign up for something like this. But man, I feel like a broken record when I talk about workshops, and I don't really enjoy talking about them.
Great. Well, I'm glad we're doing this episode.
No, I mean, like, I don't enjoy trying to sell them. Like, I feel like a broken record.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm on Instagram and I'm like, and don't forget that on such and such day, I'm doing a workshop. I just feel like I'm talking to a brick wall.
Yeah, I know. I do think Facebook has been the best source of advertising for me for those. And I know you don't have Facebook. So that's kind of a bummer because I could do that event listing and then people could say they're interested and the other people see that they said they're interested and it kind of like snowballs from there. But then the other thing I was thinking about next time I do a workshop is, so I currently sell my tickets for it on my own website, but I was thinking about also putting some of the tickets on Eventbrite because Eventbrite does like a lot of local marketing. And if people are just on there searching calligraphy, like it would pop up for you. It'd be another way of advertising it essentially. but also selling the tickets. So I don't think I would direct people to Eventbrite to buy the tickets, but I would like to see if it would work as its own standalone marketing platform to sell them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people sell calligraphy workshops specifically through Eventbrite.
Yeah.
I will say that I did utilize Eventbrite for my wood science workshop. But I don't know, maybe it just like wasn't the right keywords or something. I mean, there are so many different factors that go into that whole thing in general, but I opened 40 spots and I sold 10. And from what I had heard about Eventbrite, I was like, dang, I was really hoping that that would help boost my findability a little bit,
Yeah,
quote unquote.
right.
But all the people that came to the workshop were all people that knew me through Instagram.
That's so weird. Golly, it is so weird. Oh, workshops are a doozy.
They're a huge doozy.
Yeah.
So
And then it's also like you're not even being an artist anymore. You're being a hostess too. So you got to have your food and your snacks. And oh my gosh, my first workshop, I was like so sold on being like, I'm gonna create this beautiful experience. They're never gonna forget this day. I got really ambitious and I had a local baker make fancy macaroons, I say it, that matched the colors of my watercolor workbook because I wanted to be super extra. And I paid like $3 a macaroon, so it was like not a
my gosh.
business decision. And then I was like, you know what? Next time I'm just gonna go to Costco and get these, which is what I did, and it worked out fine. So
didn't you say that you like ended up eating a bunch of them?
Oh yeah, one of my workshops, no one ate any of the snacks, and I was like, literally being like, guys, we got champagne and like little pastries or whatever. No one ate anything, and so I just ate them all on the way home, like shoving them in my face. But
yeah, mine are always either everything's gone or nothing is touched.
So
There's
weird.
like no happy medium.
Yeah.
It's a weird groupthink, I think. Like if a couple people take the initiative, they're like, I'm gonna do it. Other people are like, oh, okay, like I'll snack too.
Yeah.
But if nobody breaks the bubble, like everyone's like, I'm not gonna touch that.
I know,
Like,
everyone's so
I can't
weird.
do
I'm always the one who breaks the bubble on eating first.
Me too.
Every party,
This is why we're
everything. Like,
friends.
I am not shy about that. If I come to your wedding, I'm eating all the cheese, y'all. I'm just gonna tell you right now. Me and my hubby, we're hanging out by the cheese table, okay? So
When people are like if I'm with family or at a party, they're like, okay, come and get it. I'm like, you don't have to ask me twice.
I know.
Like,
I know.
I am first in line, people.
My grandma calls me the glutton, and I didn't know what that meant for a long time when I was little. And I was like, I'm the glutton. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to be the glutton, Nana. What the heck? Because I always go first. But anyway.
Well, for a while in the Rising Tide group for Atlanta, I was known as the donut hole girl because at one meeting I ate almost like all the donut holes myself because no one else would.
Oh my gosh.
I was like, I take full responsibility for eating these donut holes. And it was my first meeting too, so I think I was like nervously eating as well.
I can just
because
see you
it's so
nervously
awkward.
eating in the corner, like eating your donut holes, looking around all crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh.
Anyhow, providing food and snacks. I mean, I've always provided food and snacks just because I feel bad coming empty handed. And that's always been a marketing bonus for me to say, like, hey, there will be sips and sweets here at the workshop type of thing.
Yeah, I can imagine not having some kind of little snacks there. It just makes it better. Snacks make everything better. Let's be real.
I know. I agree. Moving on to talking about getting someone to photograph your workshop. Have you done that before?
I did it one time with the workshop at the farm because obviously that was a really special workshop to me since it was at my childhood home and Pop was teaching and you were there. So special. And my family was there. So I did a little trade for photos with Kathy Beaver Photography. And I just reached out I put a call out on Instagram for photographers to see who would be interested. And we ended up doing a trade. So I traded 2 workshop seats. And then she came and shot the workshop and got to participate. And honestly, such a great decision. I'm so glad I did this because I didn't have any photos of me teaching at all or any of my workshop setup. So this was really great for me to use for marketing materials later on, even though probably won't be as cute as the farm for anywhere else I do. And it was just really fun to have her there. And so, yeah, I would recommend at least getting one of your workshops photographed so you have those kind of promotional materials to work from. Be a great idea. And you could do it as a trade. I wasn't planning on doing a trade. I was going to just pay her outright, but she offered the trade. So I was like, it's a good idea. I'll do it. So worked out really well.
Yeah. I also did my very first workshop was a trade with my friend Laura of Laura Barnes Photography, and I still definitely use those photos throughout different things. Like on my workshop page, I have a page of a really cute flat lay of like a nib with ribbon and a pen holder, and that's one that came from her. And she also initiated kind of the trade thing with me of, oh, I'd love to photograph if I can, of course, like learn from the workshop. She wasn't participating directly at the time,
Yeah.
but she got to take home all the materials for it. So yeah, but ever since then, I get so caught up in all the other details for a workshop that finding a photographer is just like one more thing sometimes that I cannot think about. Like it makes my head hurt.
Yeah.
So since then, sadly, I haven't done it again. There are some other spaces that I really wish I could have had photos in, but it just didn't work out that way. So
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you get one with some photographs, I think that's all you really necessarily need. But it is nice. It's so nice to have those professional photos instead of just trying to take pictures of your setup with your phone, and you don't get any pictures of you actually teaching. So yeah,
right.
I know. I wish I had a photographer at all my workshops, but oh well. Okay, let's talk about the big elephant in the room about how much money do you really make from workshops and how much we charge for our workshops. Everyone loves to know about pricing stuff, so let's chat about some moolah a little bit.
Yeah. Let's dive right in. Cami, it looks like you've raised yours over time.
Yeah.
I was just that person who literally started at 150 and have been there ever since. So
No, that's awesome. Keep it consistent. Yeah, my first workshop was $75. I think it was $75. I'm pretty sure. And then I raised it because I was like, that was not enough. To 125. And then I raised it to 165, which is where I am now. And I feel really good about that price point for the floral workshop. So I'll probably keep it right at that point. But there are some people I see who charge super low prices for workshops, and I honestly cannot figure out how they make any sort of money. Or even I feel like they're paying for their workshop. Like some people charge like $40, and I'm like looking at the materials they supply, and I'm like, okay, well, all these cost like $20. So then you're making $20 per person plus the venue fee. So you're probably making like $5 a person. So if you have 10 people, you make $50. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem worth it at all. So definitely don't be afraid to price yourself higher and actually look at your numbers and your profit margin and be honest with yourself, and don't just pull a number out of thin air because you've seen other calligraphers charge this amount. Like you really need to know your actual costs involved. I mean, just like with anything else, but I think people get nervous about workshops because they're like, no one will pay this much, but they totally will. It'll be fine. So I mean, as long as you're not doing a pet portrait workshop, no one's paying for that. So just don't do that.
Cami tried to charge $395 for that if you missed the previous episode.
Very proud of my workshop.
Oh man. Yeah, I had seen that like 150 was pretty much the average for a lot of workshops. So that's just where I decided I was going to start. And that was really before I had calculated my overhead costs and stuff like that. But once I did one, I felt good about it. I was like, this makes sense to me. I'm doing a workshop. If I get 12 students, I have to book 6 to break even, and then the rest is profit. And that always made sense to me to be able to kind of do it that way. The problem is, like, if you do break that down into an hourly rate, you spend so many hours doing like the prep and everything beforehand, you're still really not making much.
If you're like, oh, I am making let's just say $1,000 profit. I'm making $1,000 profit from this workshop. The workshop's 2 hours. I'm making $500 an hour. Well, not really, because you probably had to do all this other upfront work. So it's probably more like 20 hours, which I don't even know how much that is, like 50 or wait, hold on. I can't do math. But anyway, you're not making as much as you thought. So just keep that in mind that there is so much upfront work beforehand that your hourly rate is not going to be as high as what it might seem like it's going to be. So
yeah, it's going to be a lot lower. And that's part of the reason that once again, I'm doing a workshop hiatus. I just got to figure some things out, how it fits in with my biz.
Yeah. See, I
all these different things.
I thought the workshops were going to be a really great income addition for me, but I think now I've started looking at it as more of like an experience builder and a marketing effort instead, and going in with that mindset, like, okay, I'm going to make a little bit of money. Like, I'm not going to be, losing money on this, but it's also like, I'm going to create this great experience around my brand, and these people are going to love what they come to do. They're going to love what I teach them, love to paint watercolor and talk about it with their friends. And it's going to grow my business that way. So it's definitely more about building an experience with my brand and a positive connotation than it is about making a financial gain, is what I've finally learned. So maybe keep that in mind.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Because then you're building trust with that audience, that very specific audience of that small group of people that you have at a workshop.
Right. And how many times do you really get to get out and talk with your audience, work with them, paint with them, create with them? So it is a cool opportunity, I guess. I guess I'm not as bitter about it as I used to be now that I'm thinking about it.
I know. That's the thing for me, that there's so much tension because in the moment, teaching and being with everyone and sharing my skill, I love so much. But like the build up to it and mainly the marketing, it just like kills me.
I think there's a lot of stress.
It's so hard.
There's so much stress because you're trying to perform. You don't want to mess up. There's a lot of pressure to create something great. But like in the moment when the workshop's actually happening, I love it. Like I do love teaching. I love seeing people's faces like light up when something finally clicks or they see how like to do a watercolor wash. It's really rewarding. I really, really enjoy it. Like I love teaching, but yeah, if I just had someone who would put it all together and I just show up and teach, that would be fantastic. That's what I need.
Goals.
Yep.
So we had talked about this a little bit before, but we have written down here, what are the chances of actually selling out a workshop?
Oh my gosh. It honestly depends on so many factors. I really think it could go either way. Like I've sold out workshops, had people trying to get in, and then obviously have sold 0 seats. So I think it's just kind of going to be a matter of timing, a matter of cost, a matter of marketing, like all these things that you can take care of on your end, but sometimes it's just not going to work out. So I really think it's like almost a gamble on selling out a workshop, but
it is. It's definitely, it's not the norm, guys. Like selling out workshops are not the norm. Like even the biggest names in the industry have to promote workshops over and over to sell them out.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the people that post workshops and then like even the few days before the workshop happens, they're still saying, hey, there are slots left. So if somebody with a following of more than 100,000 on Instagram and a huge audience isn't immediately selling them out, like it's definitely a lower chance for us.
Yeah.
And I will say too that Cami, I think it's a little different between watercolor and calligraphy. Like I think you have a better chance than a calligrapher because when you search calligraphy workshops, I just think there's more of those than watercolor. Not like exponentially.
No, that is true. There are definitely more calligraphy workshops. But see, I would think that would make yours more popular of a workshop. So I feel like people are more inclined
supply
to do
and
that.
demand though, because if they can get it from somewhere else, then chances are they've taken it somewhere else or it depends a lot, I think, on what you're teaching too. I've only sold out one of the workshops I've done out of the maybe 5 now. I can't really keep track, but
that's really funny.
I think I did 2 in 2017 and 3 in 2018.
Yeah. I've only done one type of workshop, the watercolor florals, because I know it's going to do well. Like everyone who doesn't love learning how to paint watercolor flowers. And I can easily teach it. So that's my bread and butter right now. Hopefully I want to add more soon, but I have lots of ideas. I just get so nervous. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I know. It's really nerve-wracking when there's like a new idea and what are the first steps you take to get there. I mean, I've had this idea in my head for forever, not workshop related. But I'm like, I just don't know the first steps to take.
I know. And then I'm like, wait, would my time be better spent elsewhere, like putting together an online course? Probably, yes.
Right.
But I don't know. Maybe the workshop is a good way to like test the waters for something like that.
At what point do you cancel a workshop or what happens if you don't sell one out?
Okay, yeah. If I didn't sell one out, which I did, I definitely just cancel it. I think if I had one student, I would probably cancel it and refund them as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, if I had like 3, I'd probably do it with 3.
It says in the notes you had a class with 9. So it didn't sell out.
Right. It didn't sell out, but 9 was still enough for me to make it worth my while.
Yeah. I agree with that. I've done a lot of workshops with 9. I think it's very
worth it. And honestly just means they get more individual time. So it's fine. I prefer to have more because it's the same amount of time, same amount of work I'm putting in. Now I'm just making more money from it. So, but I can totally make it work with, 6 people, 9 people, whatever. But obviously if you have 18, then you double your profit from that time that you spent. So
that's huge. I'm amazed you even do that.
I know. It's kind of nerve-wracking, but some people are really serious and some people are just there to have fun and goof off. So it kind of works out on who wants to have attention and who doesn't. So
I know for me in March 2018, when I didn't sell a single seat, it was like 2 weeks before the workshop and I called it. I was like, this is not going to happen. Plus, it had been weird trying to book that venue that time around. So there had been kind of that struggle there. And I had done something at that venue before, but I wasn't looking forward to it again.
Yeah.
I was just really annoyed. The process was really hard, and I was like, it should not be this hard to book your space. I'm trying to give you money.
I'm trying to pay you. Yeah.
And so all those factors just led to me kind of making an announcement on Instagram, like, hey, this isn't happening. No one signed up. It's canceled. So I took it off my website. And then the one I was going to have in December that I replaced with the Wood Science workshop, I hadn't even started to advertise yet. So doesn't really count as a cancellation if I never really officially put it out there.
Yeah, what's so funny about the pet portrait one? I don't think it said canceled. It just said sold out on my website because I just changed the inventory available to 0. And then people would be like, when are you having another one? I really want to come. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me right now? But here's the thing. It's just like that Venn diagram. They might want it, but they're not willing to pay for it, or they can't make it, or whatever. And I honestly was not prepared at all for that workshop to even happen. So really was a blessing that it didn't happen, because I would have been a hot mess.
Yeah, I have to say those Instagram polls are kind of like a double-edged sword. They're great for getting a quick reading, but at the same time, I just feel like they're not accurate because people are so much more likely to hit yes on something, especially if you put a yes or a no, guys. I just have to put that out there.
Yeah.
When you're being like, would you come to this? And all you put is yes or no. A lot of people feel like jerks if they say no, so they're going to say yes. So is that really accurate?
I just don't answer at all.
Yeah, I just don't answer. I skip that. I'm like, so then if the people who would say no skip it, you're only getting people who say yes. So it's not really.
It's totally skewed, and they might not even live near you, so they can't come anyway. So
yes, thank you. So those the yes and no Instagram polls always make me laugh. I like either or Instagram post. They give them a choice. Would you rather attend on Friday night or Saturday morning? That's a little better.
Yeah. So true.
I don't think we have too much else to touch base on, unless you want to tell people about Q and Cake real quick, because we tend to end with that.
Oh, yes. Okay. So if you guys have any more questions for us about workshops or anything, you can just go to our website, bizbirthdaybash.com/Q and Cake. And that is our version of FAQs. So you can submit your question there and we will answer it in our podcast episodes called Q and Cake. So submit your questions there and we can help you out. And then, of course, don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review if you are liking what we're saying. And I think that is it for today.
Yay. So great. All right, guys. We'll see you for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Hey there, it's Elizabeth. Just dropping in to let you guys know that I have an awesome resource for workshop planning if you guys are interested in hosting your own. Obviously, you just spent the better part of an hour listening to Cami and I talk about everything that goes into planning a workshop. If you want to plan a workshop of your own, I've created the Calligraphy Workshop Planning Guide. It's a 10-page DIY planner, so it's a lot of fill in the blanks and things like that, except it has a bunch of charts and things to lead you through the planning process. So it starts with choosing your date and your venue, then it moves through and helps you strategize price for your workshop, as well as figure out where to buy supplies and outline everything you need. There's a ton that goes into planning a workshop that people don't often think about or even realize during the process. The great thing is that this guide pairs perfectly with not only this podcast and what we just talked about, but 2 blog posts on my website as well. Those are completely free resources. So if you're interested in hopping over there to learn more, it's just elizaannecalligraphy.com/blog. And if you search in the sidebar workshops, they would be some of the first things to come up. So if you want to get $5 off the calligraphy workshop planning guide, I have a special code just for Biz Birthday Bash. It's cupcake, all caps, cupcake 5, and that will give you $5 off. So the word cupcake, all caps, and then the number 5, not the word 5 spelled out. So that'll also be in the show notes on our website for anybody that wants to go back and look again. But hopefully you go ahead and grab that guide. If you need it down the road for planning a workshop, I think it could be super helpful for you. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to talking to you guys next time.